Well, it was a nice bright day, I remember, and it was probably hot. It couldn't have been any other way. But then we were used to that, and that was before air conditioning. But you just, it was hot, and so what? That didn't slow any of us down.
Every good thing has a leader, and Louise Loughborough was certainly the leader here.
She, of course, did this whole thing by herself. And when you think, well, what can just one individual do? Well, she's an example of what one can do and do so well.
She had an absolute love of Arkansas history and a love of historic preservation. She combined those efforts here, and she persuaded Civic Little Rock to back her interests, and she persuaded the General Assembly at that time to memorialize and protect one of the most historic sites in the entire state.
I was a kid, and when I first came here, it was the Arkansas Territorial Restoration. I remember going to the Candlelight House, and I just thought it was incredible, especially since the outside fools you with the clapboards, and inside you see the big logs, and I was like, wow.
The first time I went to the museum, I was completely mesmerized by, all the artifacts. But I've always had this thing for the landscape and buildings.
It was thriving and lively, but nothing like what it is today in terms of the amount of space and the sophistication of the exhibits. It's really quite extraordinary.
It's really cool to kind of know what went on in Arkansas, the state that we live in.
The way we sort of processed this was through the living history. And our first major effort at this was working with a genius by the name of Curtis Tate.
He would do the reenactment of slaves, and that was the first time I came, and I was just in awe that he could make it so believable.
The Living History program has just grown by leaps and bounds, and it's just something that our museum is so proud of. In fact, I think we're one of the best living history programs in the United States, not only just in the South, but in the United States, and especially the positive way that we deal with slavery.
Giving voice. One of the most proudest things of my entire life was being part of that whole thing. And the night we inaugurated that, we had the descendant of a slave and a descendant of a slave owner that lit the candles. It was a very moving experience. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it.
I love this gallery. The Indian Gallery is especially interesting to me because of the work I've done on trying to illuminate the history of the Quapaw people.
This was a story that was being told in a way, a story of Arkansas's native peoples, the Osage, the Caddo, and the Quapaw tribes, in a way that had never been told before. And I was just overwhelmed by the fact that this little tiny museum in Little Rock, Arkansas had such vision and just drive to make this exhibit as real and honest and truthful as it could be.
One of the Quapaws, after the exhibit and after we talked for a while, came up to me and said, this is the first time I've ever really felt like a Quapaw.
I'm a big believer in history, not the dates. I can never get a date right, or names forever elude me, but it's the stories. I like knowing the past through the stories because that's the way you find out that they're not that different from how we are today. But the only way that we know where we're going to go is where we've been.
The Arkansas Territorial Restoration was known for its restoration, the antebellum homes and gardens, but they had this fabulous collection with no place to display it. So the motivation for me was to create a true Arkansas history museum of the first order. And so that was the motivator behind the capital campaign. And we were blessed with support from Governor Tucker to Governor Huckabee and to literally hundreds of donors around the state that made this a possibility.
Various kids are interested in history, and sometimes they don't become interested until they've been here. They just thought, it was another building, it was going to be boring. But once they got here and saw the various things, and especially on some of the paintings, it introduces them to another facet of life that they may not have had exposed to had they not come here.
one of the most rewarding and one of the most delightful parts of this job is to take aspects of Arkansas history that are underappreciated and open them up to the public.
Seeing the Arkansas Made collection, the 2-volume set of books, really made me begin to think in a deeper way about my place here in Arkansas, being a Southerner. And I love going through and seeing the various exhibits and what's there and how this material collection reflects us as a people. I think it's incredibly important.
There are still great things being made in Arkansas. There's great creativity in Arkansas.
You know, it's all about connecting with people. I hope that we are digitally and physically the repository of all things creative in Arkansas.
I just can't imagine my life without Historic Arkansas Museum. I look forward to Second Friday art nights. I've had friends to come in from out of town, and they were just fascinated.
I think that Historic Arkansas Museum is really just almost an underrated gem in this city and this state. I served on the board for 5 or 6 years, and I was constantly amazed at the wealth and the diversity of the offerings of this museum.
The Candlelight Gala has been a way for the public to express their support for the museum, and it's been a way for the museum to commit deeper to the preservation of this great legacy, which is Arkansas history.
We've got to preserve that past, and we've got to find a way to make sure we pass it on to those that are coming behind us, but in a way that's fun. It's a way that connects with your life.
Arkansas runs through my blood, so it's kind of like I just love Arkansas and everything about it, and since this was the museum that was telling the story, I just wanted to be part of it.
You know, when Miss Loughborough started this place, it was rough going. From that rough start, we have created, with the help of everyone in the state, a real diamond, and it's a delight to be able to show off the various facets of this place.
We have come a long way, so we've got a lot to be grateful for.
The place, if you let it touch you, it can take you away. It can transform you in some ways, and so I wish that future folks will just be open to the transformation it offers.
Well, I think it's just such a unique place. And I'm so glad it got saved.